King Productions presents the BearDown Corner with your host, Sergeant Cornholio. Yo, everybody, this is the BearDown Corner. I'm your host, Sergeant Cornholio, and we're here for another week's edition of State of the Division, Part 4. Actually, Part 5 now. Yeah, we just went through half of the NFL already, and now we're going into the final stretch. This week, we got the NFC South on tap, so we're not going to even waste any time. Let's dive right into it. First team up for grabs, our wonderful New Orleans Saints. Shout out to my homeboys down in New Orleans, who I all game with and have fun. Mr. Landon, Jake, and Jeremy, hope y'all are taking care and being safe. All right. New Orleans Saints, my notes are this. They've done some really bad mismanagement with the cap. Because of this, they've ran into a problem. This problem being, they've moved so much money to the back end of deals, and they're now hitting dead cap casualties where, $275 million might be the cap. They're probably eating up like at least a third of that with dead cap that they could be signing players to help improve their team with. So they do this by backloading and shifting money to later years when they rework deals and make them void years. So basically, Derek Carr, for instance, they did that with him this year, locked him down from, I think it was 50 mil, saved 30 mil. He counts $20 million against the cap this year. That's insane. But what's worse is he's going to account for $69 million in 2026. So you gain temporary cap relief, you pay for it in the long run. Now they're running into this problem. Because of it, well, you know what? They're going to have to just hit the reset in some ways where, okay, you needed a edge rusher and some help in the back end. So you went and got Justin Reed, right? Cam Jordan did the restructure last year. DeMario Davis, Tyrone Matthew. Those guys all become free agents this year, right? So they brought Justin Reed in at safety to help shore up the defense, who weren't bad last year, but they also started falling off in midseason. So because of this, they had already put in, a succession plan at cornerback, even at DB, when they drafted their young kid last year in the first round. What happened this year? Well, Marshawn Lattimore got traded and the other starter got released. So now they're down to their first rounder and needing some help there. They didn't really do too much at corner in the secondary, but I think that's because they've been eyeing up some draft targets with their picks this year. They hold number 9. So with the number 9 pick, you hope to be getting a decent corner at that ranking, right? You don't have a lot of teams taking DBs in those rounds. I don't feel, anyway. So they're going to turn to the draft for that. Receiver, they don't really have to do too much. I know they brought in Brandon Cooks to kind of shore up the receiving core. He brings in the experience previously being in New Orleans, but you got Chris Olave and Raheed Shaheed. Is that how it is? Yeah, Raheed Shaheed. I always get it confused for that. I drafted that guy like 9 out of my 12 teams last year when I picked him up off waivers, drafted him with one of my teams, and then he got injured, but that's a whole nother story. As far as the New Orleans Saints, they're not looking bad because you shore up the defense a little bit through the draft. You signed a free agent in your big signing in Reed, shored up the back end there. You need some edge rush, and you need a DB. Now, shift your attention to running back. If you're going to make a succession plan, I think it's time to start preparing for life after Alvin Kamara. He's entering his age 30-year season. The man was on fire last year, but they had no quarterback. All their receivers were injured. I'm pretty sure half their O-line and half their defense was injured too. But this is a team in parallel since the loss of Drew Brees when he retired 5 years ago, right? The man's in the Hall of Fame or going to the Hall of Fame. So, Mickey Loomis, in my opinion, just needs to stop with these goddamn rework contracts, eat a year or 2 seasons of dead money, and just start over. Just accumulate every single draft pick you can get. And this is a fucking rebuild in the making. I'm sorry, New Orleans fans, Saints fans, but it is. Unless they draft, somehow someone drops down, or they trade up and draft some superstar. But there's not someone like that, especially like for what the Titans want for the number 1 overall pick. It just ain't going to happen. You're not going to get up and trade for that. So for Saints, I have them as a no playoff team next year. I hate to say that, but unless they all come together for one last hurrah, that's going to be this year. Because next year, most likely going to be the rebuilding. You don't restructure contracts if you're not going to make a push for it this year. So they've done everything they're doing, plus the draft to come, to prepare for this season. Because I believe after this season, it's a rebuild and moving forward for the New Orleans Saints. But they have a lot of core pieces in place. So as long as they don't get stupid with how they manage it, you'll have to maybe burn 1 year, and then with all that money that comes back the next year, you're going to be able to start the proper rebuild, okay? And that's another accumulation of a bunch of draft picks. And going to that year 2, you got Kellen Moore steering the ship. There's going to be a transition. Unless Kellen Moore has the game plan of the gods, okay? Former offensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles, named head coach earlier this year after the Super Bowl win. This is a rebuild. So not much really to keep going on there. They need to pick successors and start the whole process. Carolina Panthers, Dave Canales. All right. Earlier this season, he benched his former number 1 quarterback, number 1 overall pick quarterback, okay, starting quarterback Bryce Young. Now, this kid learned from it, though. Andy Dalton got shoved in there. He only ever went out because he injured his thumb in a fucking car accident, or so-called car accident. Bryce Young gets the chance again. And he showed improvement. He showed making smart decisions in football games. And because of that, they started winning some games. The culture started shifting. Things are turning a ship, I think. At least that's how he goes on to describe it. Whereas in the building, the new energy of the players, it's gone from down to up within that 1 year. Like he came out and said in this report interview where he just kept it the same, whether it was down bad times or the high good times. He kept the same. He didn't let emotions sway him. He just steered the ship as a good head coach. So because of that, your players believe. They believe in the system, right? They let Miles Sanders go. That was a foregone conclusion. And they brought in Rico Dowell. What does Dowell bring? He brings 1,000 yards, receiving abilities, and a great complimentary back for Chuba Hubbard. Okay? Chuba Hubbard did not get a 4-year extension at his prime ripe age right now to be some non-workhorse cowbell. Okay? This kid is going to fucking pound it next year, but you're going to see him get enough rest that Dow will take that extra stress off of him. This is an offensive line with a right tackle that a lot of people have been wondering about. Taylor Morton, okay? Is he going to be traded? Is he going to be re-signed? What's going on? Final year of his deal. Canales more or less not guaranteeing the re-sign, but all his support is going that towards him staying the long term. He's a 30-year-old tackle. Okay, he opens the holes. He's been the one consistent in that offense for the last half a decade. Re-sign this man. He's going to be your pillar. Like, he's already your homegrown Trent Williams. Don't let him go. He might not protect the blind side, but he'll make sure your running back goes for a fucking 60-yarder. And what's this? Dave Canales, when he came in last year, he said we're going to run run-heavy first offense. So what better than a Chuba Hubbard with a Rico Dowell behind him to help push that line? The offensive line's already, been gelling better together. I don't know all their names, and I sure as heck don't need to when I see them popping off for a 34-yard touchdown against the Bears. Like, hello. I'm pretty sure that was the London game this last season. Yeah. And he blew off for a really amazing looking touchdown. Honestly, he made my defense look like they were second rate. But then we went on to hold the rest of the game and, show why Carolina was where they were at that point in the season. Carolina is not to be slept on. I don't think anyway. Okay? You have Adam Thielen re-signing 1-year contract. They went out and signed Patrick Jones II. He had a breakout of 7 sacks this year, playing in a rotational / starting role for the Vikings. He got a 2-year, $20 million. You got Tarshawn Wharton coming in from the 3-4 defensive end of the Kansas City Chiefs. Super Bowl champion there. Signed a 3-year, $45 million. This is a dude who Andy Reid is so high on. He praised. Here's what I liked. This is what I gathered from what I read that really sat with me. And that was he praised his ability to climb the depth chart. That's a team first guy. That's a guy who wants to show the leadership and lead by example. That signing was looked at as a overpay for a player. I don't think so. If your head coach as Andy Reid, and I'll take Reid's words as they are, okay? And that's why I would sign the guy to that if that's what the market was demanding. This is going to be a hell of a value deal for Carolina in the next 2 years. This year, he might even pop off and just show Ray what he's worth. Watch this kid's next contract, all right? I wouldn't sleep on Carolina this year. I think they build off of last season and actually push for division title, right? You went and addressed the defensive side of the ball, and they're not even done on that yet. They are literally putting forth the best foot in signing free agents that it's systematic is what it is. It's not, oh, this guy's the number 1 rated free agent. No, they're systematic, and they got the best available at what they need and want. Like, I like what they've done. As far as the NFC South is concerned and improving teams, okay, as an overall NFL person, I like what the Carolina Panthers have done this season, especially the way he backs his young players, right? Xavier Legit, he is going to be their number 1 receiver this year. They could go out and get some support at number 2, but I think that kid, Jalen Coker, is going to do just fine. Adam Thielen rounds out everything with the veteran presence. That's why they brought him back, right? They went and maybe signed a little bit more than they needed to, but they got the cap room to do it. Plus, it's just showing respect to the veteran. Adam Thielen might not have 150 catches for 1,500 yards anymore, but the man's going to have, he might even be the number 2. Who knows how they want to use him? Either way, they got 3 solid receivers with a confident quarterback who's making smarter decisions, a gelling offensive line that honestly just re-sign your goddamn tackle, get that over with, and then your running game's going to take command. Protect the blind side, run out the right. You need a right tackle for that. You got the running backs. You got everything else in place. Offensively, they're not sound, but they're improving, and they're going to be competition for the NFC South. So, yeah, I think their draft needs, they fill the middle line. You know what? Here's my prediction. Carolina takes a flyer on that kid that I talked about with my Oxbow buddies there, Frazier and Mr. Mock. And I think that Carolina will pick up that defensive tackle. That's going to be my guess. I said I was going to do a whole little biopic of him this week. I don't need to. We already know about him. And the rest of you are going to find out about this kid if he goes to Carolina. Because if he fills in the middle with the rushers that they got, maybe draft another edge guy, who knows? Who knows what they could be? They could be a dark horse for all we know. Now, moving on. Falcons fans, right? Super suit. Former buddy of mine that's from an Atlanta Falcons fan. Here is the rundown on your team. Recent reports. Kirk Cousins had a talk with Arthur Blank over the weekend during the owners' meetings. And in the owners' meetings, he came out and talked about how that phone call, he made like 5 pages worth of notes. They talked for an hour. It was great. They have a general understanding. From what I gathered, it sounds like the plan is to try and trade Kirk Cousins after the draft because he'll waive his no trade, or maybe he'll do it before. Either way, it sounds like Kirk Cousins might be on the move as long as his demands are being met and they're all in. And if it doesn't work out, then you know what? They got the highest paid backup in the league. And what better when you're trying to groom and grow your starting quarterback in Michael Penix Jr., right? The kid came on. He did all right for his 3 starts last season. You got Drake London, Darnell Mooney, Ray McLeod at wide receiver, 3 explosive wide receivers. A lot of people are wanting a number 2. I don't think they need a number 2. Plug and play, improve your defense. That's what you need to do. And shore up that offensive line. Those are the needs of the Atlanta Falcons. You don't need receivers, and you sure as hell don't need running backs with Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier in the backfield. All right? They lost their center to the Chicago Bears in free agency. They're probably going to draft another center. I'm pretty sure they've drafted their last however many starting offensive centers. I don't think they've had a free agent center signed to the Atlanta Falcons in as long as I can remember. In the last 20 years or better. Oh, no, wait. Maybe Alex Mack. I think he played for them at one point, actually. Yeah, Alex Mack, Brown center. Look it up. He played for the Atlanta Falcons at one point later in his career after he left the Cleveland Browns. That's right. One signing. Okay, so really, when it comes to the Falcons, I feel unless they improve that defense, you'll probably be a middle tier pack drafting, maybe 12th overall next year, 18th if you're lucky, if you're going to push for a playoff spot. I don't believe they make playoffs, mainly because of the defense. They got, I don't know what the hell they got going on over there, man. They've had some guys retire. They've had some guys just straight up leave. They haven't been able to replace the defense that helped vault them to the Super Bowl when they lost to Tom Brady all them years ago. So, you know what, as far as Atlanta, like, whatever, the hell with it, right? They're not making playoffs. We'll just finish this up with our wonderful Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who I feel are probably the favorites to win the division this year in the NFC South. They're switching Tyreek Smith to safety. He was a corner drafted the year before. In his rookie season, he got shifted due to injuries and played a hell of a lot better in that improved defense later on in the season. But they still have a lot of questions on defense. Brought back franchise veteran Levante David recently. They signed Hassan Reddick to a 1-year kind of prove it, lose it, not really much on their banter kind of deal, right? 1 year at 11 mil, I think it was. 14 with 3 mil in bonuses he can earn up to. So if he can play to the level he can, that's going to help solve the defensive end edge rusher issue I have listed here. DBs, well, we already talked about Tyreek Smith, but that's one rookie being shifted to safety because your other guys were injured. And I think if Antoine Winfield is healthy, they move this kid all over the field. Draft another dude, maybe at safety. Focus on some DB secondary and edge rusher, really. Linebacker can be concealed with good safety play. So if you got a guy that's already running around like that Zach Bond over in Philadelphia, he'll be fine. Make this kid into it. Have him eat some more McDonald's and pump some weights. I offensively, I like the Bucks. I really like the Bucks, actually. I think Baker Mayfield is an excellent quarterback that can eventually lead a team to a Super Bowl. When you have Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Jalen McMillan, amongst other receivers, their plethora of receivers is impressive. And there's even talk of like a certain talent dropping to them at 19 overall. But why? No, don't. Just throw it into that defense, soup the shit out of it. That's what you need this year. Offensively, they didn't really lose much in free agency. Everyone's going to come back healthy. You got two solid running backs in Rashad White and Bucky Irving. All right, the offensive line is solid enough. Defense is their Achilles heel. They were able to overshadow and cover it with offense, but it still bit them in the ass in the playoffs. Still bit them in the ass in that final drive. Otherwise, we could be having a completely different discussion right now of the Philadelphia Eagles. But we're not. So I think they win division, make playoffs, improve defense. Hassan Reddick has a revival season. He'll probably sign like a 2 or 3 year deal after that. Levante David comes back for one last hurrah. They'll be a dark horse for me. I like Tampa. I like the leadership Baker Mayfield has done in his progression of his career. I think they are just fine where they're at. That is the completion of State of the Division Part 5 in our episode 24 of the BearDown Corner. Little around the league news. Jaguars exercise their 5th-year option on Travon Walker, former number 1 overall pick in 2022. And out of that draft class, he is 3rd ranked with 24 sacks in his career so far. The kid's only missed, I think, 1 game, 48 games and 49 possible starts. Good. You know what? He's probably not going to get recognized around the league until year 6, 7. And I say that because Jacksonville, they got their shit to figure out on that. We talked about that last week on the AFC South. Yeah, they exercised the 5th-year option, so he'll be there for 2 more seasons. Geno Smith, all right, this is a story I found interesting. I liked it. We had no ill will to the former team. It was just more about a respect factor, and he felt they weren't meeting that. Based on what their discussions, he felt they were moving more with their youth core movement, which we all seen happen in free agency. So respect was the main thing I'm going to pin as Geno leaving Seattle and the reconnection with Pete Carroll because he loves Pete Carroll. Terran Armstead retires after 12 years at the age of 33 from the NFL. Former New Orleans Saint and current Miami Dolphins signed, actually, or did he get traded? I don't know. But either way, he ended up Miami Dolphins. Worked out for them for a few seasons. Good for that. Julio Jones, Atlanta Falcon, officially retires at age 36. Yeah, he was a impressive receiver to watch. One of only 6 men to have 300 yards receiving in a game. Sherrard Sanders will be our final topic of the BearDown Corner as we are going to enter into our prospect of the draft. All right, so this week's prospect is Sherrard Sanders, quarterback out of Colorado State, the Buffaloes. Here it is. I'm not going to talk stats. I'm going to just tell you these simple notes, and this is why I think he should go as one of the top quarterbacks. All right? This young man, his stats look good enough. Stats are whatever. What I noticed was a big improvement in year 2 in each of out of his 4 seasons. His first season at each college, okay, subpar. Next year, took it to the next level. That's good. That means growth. Next, you got him winning the Jerry Rice Award as best freshman. So he proved he's one of the top talents. Good. Next, he won the Johnny Unitas Award, best personality on and off the field with leadership. You don't win an award like that as it's also because it's later on too when you win that. You have to be playing for at least, I think, 3 seasons or something like that. But as his position, he is viewed as a leader in his locker room and community. Okay? He is obviously doing enough to be highly valued for an award like this because of off-the-field activities as well. So that means he ain't going to be giving you trouble. He's probably a guy you want to build a franchise Around. If you have those traits, I feel you're going to be just fine. Especially if the talent's there, the rest comes with it like that. You just can't let it all get to his head and maybe be as much of a primetime player as his daddy was back in the day. It's a different NFL now. So, Mr. Sanders, I hope that the canceled Titans, that's right, Titans canceled on him his private workout this week. Now, from what I've read and gathered, I feel it's simply because they have enough information on the kid that if they're sold on him, they're going to pick him. But if not, the Browns, he won't be leaving. He'll be number 2. If Cam Ward goes 1, Sanders goes 2 to the Browns. Your restart starts now, Browns. So take the best quarterback available, and what better than that? So in that being said, Sanders, prospect draft pick of the week. I feel he goes either number 2 or number 1 overall in this year's NFL draft, just by the simple fact of the quarterback need on those teams. This is the BearDown Corner. I'm Sergeant Cornholio. You can catch us on Spotify, Apple Music, over at Amazon, and of course iHeartRadio, with always YouTube. This has been a great episode. Thank you for joining us. You take care, be safe, and we will catch you next week here at the BearDown Corner.